So what's up people, and welcome to another Spy Family discussion. So for today's discussion, I don't want to go over any specific chapter, but rather a topic that has been on my mind for a little while. And that topic is Project Apple, the project that revolves around Bond. And according to Sylvia, it is a rogue organization that seems to be creating these very intelligent animals. Of course, Bond is in there. He may not be particularly intelligent, but he is cognitive and he has special abilities. And so this mysterious group seems to be doing some very interesting experiments for a reason that we still don't know. And why it's recently been on my mind is because in the recent chapter of 78, Sylvia mentioned that the people of Project Apple were still at large and have not been caught. And so this implies that whatever they are doing, they are still continuing on. And during the discussion video for chapter 78, I mentioned that because Anya is also a cognitive individual, was there any connection between her and Project Apple? And during that video, a commenter named Wannabe Thinker 237 mentioned that I should go look at the scientists that were shown in Anya's flashback and compare it with the scientists that were in Bond's flashback. And so I did that. And first of all, thank you very much, Wannabe Thinker 237. This was really revealing. And so, going back to the flashback for Bond, of course, you see these scientists doing some very nasty experiments on Bond. But what's interesting is when you compare it with the flashback from Anya in Chapter 1, yeah, they're quite similar. Almost identical, I would say. With the maybe difference is that the lady scientist is not in the Bond scene. And just to confirm, I went to check it out in the anime as well. And yeah, lo and behold, we see the same thing. And so unless Tatsuya Endo and the anime creators decided that they would create the same generic scientists for all scientists that come out in this series, these scientists are basically the same. And if that's the case, although we have not gotten a complete confirmation that Bond was from Project Apple, it's almost certain that he is. And if that's the case, this seems to tie back to Anya also being from Project Apple. And since the members of Project Apple are still at large, what it seems to indicate is that they have transferred from doing research on animals to doing research on humans, and that they are doing whatever they're doing still. And so that implies a few things. First of all, it's almost now certain that Project Apple will be coming up in the future, potentially in the near future, considering how much they are mentioned now. But the other is that their experiments and their development seems to be advancing to a kind of a concerning level. Now, if you notice, back in the very first chapter, the flashback for Anya does indicate a motive for Project Apple, that they seem to be doing it for the sake of world peace. So it sounds like an ethical objective to which they are doing things, and yet the way they treat the children, and especially the way they treated the animals, was less than sympathetic. And considering the fact that ethics is something that often is in the case of the point of view, the objective for Project Apple is still not certain. Are they doing it for the sake of world peace that will benefit the entire world, including Westalis and Astania? Or are they doing it for the sake of the world peace of Astania by potentially destroying Westalis? We don't know. But whatever the case, they seem to be on this almost fanatic objective for doing what they do, and that seems to be the reason they can justify what they're doing. Now, the other thing that we remember from Chapter 1 is that Anya is said to be created by these experiments, and she seems to be given a name of Subject 007. So this indicates a couple of other clues. First of all, she is not the only subject because she is 007. There's at least 6 additional subjects before her and potentially an unknown number after her. And from what it sounds like, was she born or was she created? We do not know. Did they abduct children and modify them, and that is what their definition of creation means? Or did they literally create a living entity? We're not sure yet. But whatever the case, it seems like they have extended their experiments to which their final product is a child. And this brings up a few interesting points. Where did this child come from, and what is going on with the other children that are also subjects of their project? And another clue that comes out is during the interview with Eden College, if you remember, that really snide housemaster asked that question, who did Anya like more, your or her previous mother? And during that time, we see Anya go into an extremely emotional scene, which seems to indicate that whatever happened, it was an extremely traumatic moment between her and her mother, so-called mother. So it does indicate first that she did have a mother, most likely, unless she's crying because she did not have a mother. And the possibility is that whatever happened that separated her from her mother was not a peaceful one. And so what did happen? I'm not sure. Now, the last thing that seems to be coincidental is that Lloyd has received this girl from the orphanage, and his handler in the past has lost the girl due to a mysterious reason. So is there a tie between Sylvia's daughter and Anya? Now, I don't think they're the same age because it seemed like it was quite a while back that Sylvia lost the daughter. We're not sure yet. It may be more recent. However, considering the fact that Lloyd didn't know about it, and it was quite a while back that Lloyd was recruited to the WISE organization, it probably happened before Lloyd joined WISE. In which case, if Sylvia's daughter still was alive, she would be a lot older than Anya. So, is there a direct match? Most likely not, with the exception of one thing. Project Apple is a group of scientists, and they seem to be creating children. So how do they create children? Do they get a live child, abducted, and do their experiments on the child? Or do they find a deceased child and using the child's body resurrect the child in whatever form, either directly or indirectly through techniques such as cloning? And do they create a child completely from that? We're not sure yet. It does potentially ask a bunch of questions, but there seems to be this mystery that's going on with regards to Anya and where she came from. And according to this scene, it still seems like she did have a mother, but who was the mother, we don't know. We also don't know what happened to Sylvia's family. Why is she alone now? What happened to her husband and daughter? And until those things get clarified, it's really hard to determine which part of the story revolves around Project Apple. It may sound absurd that whatever happened to Sylvia revolved around Project Apple, considering Project Apple was basically discussed around Bond. But if we look at these scientists and look at their similarity, it seems to indicate that Tatsuya Endo directly mentioned that Project Apple was with regards to Bond, but seems to secretly imply that they are also associated with Anya. So if he's doing that, how wide is he going to make the connections in the story? We don't know, but it will be interesting to find out. Now, the last question I want to go to is Garden. So Garden is this secret assassination group that of course Yor is involved with. But according to Frankie, they seem to be extremely powerful, with the members being almost superhuman, considering the fact that he says one soldier can wipe out an entire military troop. Now, knowing Yor, yeah, it's probably relatively easy for Yor to be able to wipe out an entire military troop. So if there is a group of them, all with the similar levels of power as Yor? How did that happen? How come Yor is that strong? She could literally kick a car and send it flying. This is not just from training. It almost sounds like they were physically enhanced. They are almost this comic's version of Captain America. So if that happened, how did that happen? Who turned them into superhumans? Was it potentially Project Apple? In which case, is there a tie between all of these things that are happening to the story to a single mysterious entity that's going on in the back? And if Garden is associated with Project Apple is potentially doing it for world peace. What does that mean? Right here, Frankie mentions that they seem to be taking orders from the shadow government. What is the shadow government? Is he talking about the Ostania secret police? Or is there a form of social rule in Ostania that's completely separate from the obvious government that's in the front? And is that the one that's controlling a lot of things, including Project Apple, as well as Garden? And if that's the case, is there some tie of that to Operation Strix? Considering Operation Strix is an infiltration for the objective of finding out who is trying to start a war between Ostania and Westalis. If it turns out to be Donovan Desmond, is he somehow associated with this entire shadow organization? Or potentially, is there a shadow organization that's trying to reverse the other group that's trying to create a war? So there is a group in the government that's trying to prevent the war, to bring world peace. And then there's a group in the organization that's trying to create a war. We don't know yet. Is the objective of world peace obtained through retaining of peace by preventing a war, or obtaining the peace through world domination by winning a war? We don't know yet. And so it's interesting. Something is happening in the back, right? Tatsuya Endo isn't explaining everything, but these two comparisons of the scientists seem to indicate that he is doing things in the back to tie this all together. And it will be interesting to find what happens. Now, with all this said, there are two things that potentially will come out in the future. One is an anti-Anya, right? Another Anya, but is for a different objective than what Anya is doing, which is, of course, to help bring world peace by supporting Agent Twilight and the WISE organization. But is there going to be an anti-Anya that will come out that will be an antagonist to Anya? Most likely, considering that all of this seems to indicate that it creates an opportunity for another powerful child to come out. And will it be a goofball like Anya? It might be, because Spy Family is a comedy, but it may potentially be one of those really perfection kids that Anya gets compared to later on. The other, of course, is who are the other super soldiers in Garden? And when will they come out? Because you know they will come out. The only people we have seen are the shopkeeper and Yor's handler. I don't think the handler is to the level of strength that Yor is, although his skill is up there. So there are probably other field agents that are equally as strong as Yor, doing things covertly while the story is going on, which indicates that somewhere along the way, they will come out as well. So it'll be interesting. As much as this story is moving on, we're still in the world building phase. We haven't even come to the point where the world is finally well built and the story can move on. We're still, what it seems like, is in the beginning phase of the story. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, because Tatsuya Endo is starting to bring out little tidbits of what's going on, but they're so small that we really still don't understand what is happening. But it does make for a really interesting expectation of what's to come, And I am really looking forward to seeing what Tatsuya Endo will do with all of this stuff that he is putting together. But of course, we will have to wait for future chapters to come out. And once they do come out, I will bring out more videos, and I hope you join me at that time. But this is my discussion with regards to Project Apple. What do you think about it? I know that many of you have read the series as much as I have, and many of you have your own comments with regards to this. So any comments will be greatly appreciated. Once again, thank you very much, Wannabe Thinker 237, for this information. And until the next episode, happy manga reading, and as always, Jaya, nice day, everyone.